Welcome back. We are at the National Zoo. I'm going to give you a bunch of tips and advice so that you can make the most of your time there. The absolute best thing about going to the National Zoo is that it is 100% free. What we're going through right now is a security checkpoint. And my number one advice to you for going to the National Zoo is this: don't expect to see any animals. And you may be wondering, hey, look, that's the reason why we went to the zoo. Well, most of the animals at the zoo, basically, for whatever reason, don't like kids. And there are tons of kids at the zoo, and they're pointing, sometimes they're throwing things at these animals, and the animals try to avoid them. In fact, take a look at this right here. This enclosure actually has an animal. The animal is right there in front of you. This is what it's the leopard. It's right there, and I'm going to stop the video in a minute so that you can see it. But believe it or not, the animal is right there, but it's camouflage. It doesn't move a lot. It's sick of seeing all these kids, and there it is right there. And I'm going to zoom in, and you can see the tail hanging down. I'm going to throw an arrow up there so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But even when the animals are there, they don't like to mess around with humans. So number 2, exhibits will be closed. Your best defense against this is to check online ahead of time to find out what is open. My next advice to you is to expect a crowd. It doesn't matter when you come here, there's always going to be lots of people. There are 5 million people in the DC metro area, and all the school system during the school year dump their kids here on field trips. And in the summertime, people come here from around the nation and the world. Number 4 is this: see the pandas first. They are the star attraction of the zoo, and they're not always available for the public to see them, and they get crammed by people who come there and want to see them. The good thing about the pandas is that they are at the very front entrance off of Connecticut Avenue, so when you get there, you should try to go see them first. Now, here's our experience seeing the pandas. Remember, rule number 1 is that the animals don't want us to see them. So we saw the pandas, and this is as close as we were able to get. We are already at tip number 5, and that is to download and print your own map. They also have an app with you can have it on your phone. And the reason you want it is because you're going to want to find your favorite animals, and they have directional signs all over the zoo. But if you want to find your favorite animal, you're going to want to know exactly where to go, and the map is going to be extremely helpful with that. If you are a member of the 1% Club, this tip does not apply to you. But for everyone else in America, bring your own lunch. Expect to pay $20 to $25 per meal out of pocket if you don't bring your own lunch. And there are plenty of spaces that you can eat, benches and areas that are set aside just for lunch. Now, having said that, if you decide to eat at a food truck, the food at the food truck are exceptional. The food at the zoo used to be crap, but now it is quite good and high class. The next thing is, do not drive to the zoo. Parking is limited, and there is no street parking available. So if you want to experience the zoo, forget about it. Don't drive. This is the entrance from Connecticut Avenue. As you can see, a free zoo will turn into $30 for a parking space in a heartbeat. So do not drive. The zoo may be free, but it is not small. So that brings us to tip number 7, and that is wear comfortable shoes. The average person is going to put on about maybe 10 to 15,000 steps on their Fitbit. Animals at the zoo are packed into what's called houses, so you'll have like a reptile house. So my next tip to you is go to your house. Wherever animal you want to see, go there early. And the reason for that is because of these lines. Eventually these lines develop, and it's not any good rhyme or reason. Some have lines, some don't. So make sure you go to the enclosure that you want to first to make sure that there's not a line. just to show you what one of these houses look like, we are in the Great Ape House. And you remember I said that, you know, the animals really don't want to be seen. Well, when they're in these enclosures, they're so small, they're intimate. So you get an opportunity to really get to see the animals up close. And sometimes they put on a show like they did for us today. This right here is actually part of the ape house. They have a tunnel where they can run outside. And as you can see, for whatever reason, the animals outside, they want to avoid these little kids. They don't want to have anything to do with them. But one of the things I like about the zoo is that they have these educational things in front of each enclosures because they know the kids are not going to be seeing any animals. That's a great segue to my next tip, which is come prepared to learn. This is the lion enclosure, and as you can see, no lions are in sight or not easily visible. There's one right there in front of you if you look closely. So they have these educational exhibits in front, so it tells you a little bit about the animals and it gives you some information. And as you can see, the kids gravitate to it. They love it because you're not going to be looking at any animals, which is tip number one. Remember, you're not going to be seeing any animals, at least not the big ones. On the day I was there with about a dozen kids, and we saw a bunch of animals and we had a bunch of fun and we ate some good food. And at the end of the day, I said, what was the highlight of your trip? And it was this water spray thingamajiggy. This is what they enjoyed the most. So come with the expectation of basically expect the unexpected. One of the things I like about the zoo is that it is fun for all ages, and I truly mean that. So if you have little kids, they have farms and they have ways that kids can interact with the animals, and they have this fun play area along with many other things that make it just extraordinarily fun, really for adults and kids of all ages. And the number one thing, again, is that the zoo is absolutely free. We had tons of fun while we were there at the zoo. But one of the things I really do like is that you can pace yourself. You can go there and really be a trailblazer and do 15, 20,000 steps and see the whole thing in one day. Or there are plenty of opportunities for you to relax, plenty of areas that provided seating, and there are plenty of entertainments to include kids kicking like that for absolutely no reason. So come there with the realization that there's lots of shade, lots of places for you to sit down, relax, unwind, and just take in the scenery and the environment. Most of you already know that my channel specializes in fun and interesting things for individuals and families to do in the DC metro area. Thanks for being with me today, and the most important thing you can do today is subscribe.